can't go in and enforce it through the barrel of a gun.
In CQ Weekly, Jonathan Allen has a story on Rob Portman, who's a former member of the House from the Cincinnati area and the president's budget director. He writes that after 6 years in which the administration generally turned a cold shoulder to the minority congressional Democrats, Portman stands to be perhaps the White House's only solid link to the newly empowered party for the last 2 years of his presidency. Indeed, if Bush hopes to burnish his domestic policy legacy, and particularly if he tries to update entitlement policy as he has indicated, Portman will almost surely be a foreman on Capitol Hill. There's a quote from Congressman John Lewis of Georgia, who's the Deputy House Democratic Whip, who says he's the only one, to be very candid, that I really know.
Well, I think any effort by the White House to reach out and actually work with the Congress is a good and necessary one, but it can't be a head fake on this issue. You know, here's the person that I'm going to send to you so we can try and work together. But in the meantime, I'm going to jam you on these nominations, with the Bolton nomination, with judicial nominations, with drilling in Alaska, with all these issues, with regard to all of these issues with which we've had serious debate and differences before, and expect that we're going to get along.
Our topic, the Democrats, the agenda for the 110th Congress. Our guest is Melody Barnes, and our next call is Jerome, Michigan. Good morning.
Yes, and I thank you for the program. In regards to earmarks, which you call earmarks, I call it, instead of a bill passing on its own merits, I call it a political blackmail or buying votes from the other members in order to get them in stream with them. I think it's just terrible that this is the way this country's got to operate, buy votes from the other members in order to get them to back their particular agendas. Thank you very much.
Comment?
Well, I think we touched on that earlier, and we certainly have seen the proliferation of earmarks over the last several years, and as a result, also a growing budget and a growing deficit, and that's something that we definitely have to get under control.
The Farm Bill is the subject of this front page story below the fold in the New York Times. Let me just read you some of the details. In the face of tough new competition, primarily from China, even proud groups are buckling on the issue of imports. Produce farmers, their hands newly outstretched, have joined forces for the first time, forming a lobby group intended to pressure politicians over the Farm Bill to be debated in Congress in January. Is this on your radar screen?
Absolutely. The Farm Bill is going to be a huge issue next year. I think by the end of 2007, there will be efforts to have a new Farm Bill. And what that means will be critical. Will it be an extension of the current Farm Bill, or will we actually tackle some of the tough issues that are raised by the Farm Bill? I think we at the Center for American Progress believe that we have to really put some of these issues on the table and address them. And certainly, I was reading the same article this morning. There are whole new groups, in this case fruit and vegetable farmers, that are coming to the table and saying we need help.
And they've never done that before, according to the New York Times.
Exactly. So there are people who are going to be demanding more. At the same time, it also appears that there's going to be less money available to meet the demands that people are placing on this bill. We at the center are going to be talking about this more in the future, but some of the issues that we look at and we put on the table, this is an opportunity to address some of the problems that farmers are facing, making sure that they have the kinds of assistance that they need in terms of insurance, etc. It's also an opportunity, however, to think about this in the context of our energy issues. We were talking about the drilling in Alaska earlier. This is an opportunity to say, let's look at some of the renewable biofuels and how can we advance our agenda on that. I think we all remember last year in the State of the Union, the president all of a sudden realized, he realized and found switchgrass, which is a crop that can be used with regard to our energy crisis. So how do we bring those issues to bear as we're looking at the Farm Bill so that we're finally addressing some of these and trying to bring some equities to the table?
Let me just ask you a quick follow-up. Why, when the WTO, the World Trade Organization, has been meeting, the U.S. farm subsidy program been the subject of so many protests? What's the issue behind that?
Well, there are concerns. This isn't just a domestic issue. I mean, I think we think about farming in terms of, what's happening around the United States. This is also a global issue, and how farmers are being treated around the world, particularly in some of the poorer regions in the world. And the issue of subsidies often is perceived by those who are at the forefront of these protests as a way to disadvantage some of the farmers elsewhere. And what we need to do is to think about how we can address global development, how we can address global poverty, and at the same time make sure that American farmers and the American economy are also moving forward.
Our next call is from Cincinnati, Independent Line. Good morning.
Okay, this is Barnes. I feel sorry for you because of... I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
We sure can.
Okay, I feel sorry for you because the problems in this country right now are astronomical. And you look at immigration, you look at outsourcing all our wealth to the rest of the world to raise them up out of the mud at our cost. This lowers our way of living. And then you got to look at CSPAN. My comment to you is, I wish you got a book TV buzz that goes around the country to do what you're doing now with like a Washington journal format, and have people set from communities on these and then air these. And these people here like her would have a chance to get a better view of all the way around the country instead of us just have a chance to call in occasionally.
Well, actually, we're doing that. Thank you for segue. It's called Viewfinder, and it's just in its infancy. But we did hear from many people on Thanksgiving Day. We asked them what it means to be an American, and as you can upload the video onto your computer, and we can then share your comments and questions on specific topics. So you will see much more. And if you want to get information on Viewfinder, you can go to our website at cspan.org. But we're looking for other ways to incorporate your comments, in addition to phone calls and emails, by sending us your video comments and questions on the Washington Journal and other programming. And thanks for the plug on the Book TV bus. And I forgot what his question was.
Actually, luckily, I do remember that. The first thing that the caller said was that he felt sorry for me, and I guess he was thinking about me, and probably not me personally. Right. Because of the astronomical problems that the country faces. And I look at that a little bit differently. I think that we actually are presented with an opportunity. You look at the issues of climate change. You look at the issues of energy independence. He named immigration as well. I could go on. Certainly the problems that we're having in Iraq. There are opportunities here. There's an opportunity to develop new drivers for our economy when we're thinking about energy and climate change and the Farm Bill together, as opposed to just thinking about them unilaterally. With regard to our national security, this is an opportunity for us to drive a new way of thinking forward, one that actually it provides for more sustainable security for us around the world, that integrates our various power forms, whether they be military or diplomatic. So we view this as an opportunity to start to shift the paradigm, to change the perception in the country, and to change tactics going forward.
So to quote Howard Dean, who told Democrats yesterday in a speech that will be airing today, this morning on C-SPAN, now it's what we do, not what we say. How will the Democrats be measured at the end of 2008?
Right, absolutely.
Or actually, let's take it through the end of 2007.
I think that the American public, and this goes back to the beginning of our conversation this morning, the American public signaled on Election Day, we want some change. And we have to take that very, very seriously and, in fact, bring forth the kind of change that they want. That's what Speaker Pelosi's 100-hour agenda is about. That's what the Center for American Progress Action Fund's 100-day is agenda about. So it's necessary that we not, after the first 100 hours, sit back on our laurels and say, job well done. We have to continue driving legislation forward, getting bills passed, sending them to the president, and hopefully the president will recognize that this agenda reflects that which the American people want, and we can make some change. And that's the way that we'll be judged.
And speaking of other viewers and other forms of communication to you, an email from Roberta Sepko. Ms. Barnes, my question is, how much power does the Congress actually have in changing the course of the war? Other than controlling the purse strings, that is, refusing to fund the war, doesn't Bush, as the commander-in-chief, sadly, wield enormous power during a war?
The caller is correct. The Commander-in-Chief is, in fact, the Commander-in-Chief. He is responsible for the current strategy. He's responsible for making a lot of the decisions. But what Congress can do is Congress can demand some change. Congress can demand greater information. One of the things that we